Hi guys, back in the car. It's time to hit the road for another episode of Chats With.
So I actually had a massive introduction prepared for you about how you just won Automechanica Best Multi-Site.
Yep.
You were finalist for Top Garage. You've won a plethora of awards. You've been here for 35 years. You wrote multiple articles for people like Garage Wire and PPM. You've done articles
I've
for
done
PPM.
PPM and aftermarket.
Yeah, and you've just got this like wealth of experience. But then I've been talking to you for about an hour now, and I realise that none of that actually does justice to how amazing you really are. So you're like probably one of the greatest minds I've spoken to for quite a while. What was the keystone, like milestones that got you to where you are now?
Passion.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm passionate about what we do. I just love what I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, I love the whole industry. I love working with people. I love the fact that I can come in here and speak to the managers, speak to the front of house guys and get them to be better at what they do. Get them to understand what they're doing and the impact it has. And it's just very satisfying. Data is my key. Definitely 100% data. It can teach you, and when it's your data, it's bespoke to you, it's not made up. It tells you so much. You just need to understand it.
Is that something you've always loved doing? Like when you were in school, is that what you thought? I'm going to grow up and be...
No, it was just maths. It was literally just numbers.
Oh, okay.
Literally, I left school, I did college, I did accountancy, I did my AAT, and then had kids. And it all comes to a grinding halt, like it does.
Yeah.
And then I went back part-time to work for CCM, just doing their books. And that's where it all kind of flowed from there. I realised, and Barry and Stuart realised, that actually I was pretty good at this. I could run the operation side and give them time to do the stuff that they needed to do.
How was that transition between being a bookkeeper to being a spearhead?
I think it happened slowly over a period of time, to be honest with you. It was more and more Stuart kind of going, oh, Tina can do that. I was going to Tina to do, Tina can do that. And then as my kids got older and I was spending more and more time in the garage anyway, and it was just natural for me to take off stuff off of Stuart. He was in the workshop at the time, he didn't need to be in the office running the show. So it's just natural progression really, from being there part-time doing the books to being there full-time.
The sounds of it is like Stuart and Barry will come up with an idea and you make that idea happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Across 3 sites.
It was great. Honestly, when we had a third site, because the process was already in place, TechMan was already there, we had it all set up, it was all running, we knew it worked. We literally just picked it up and dropped it into a third site. And I probably spent 3 months there every day training the staff that we had on how to use it.
And they were all processes you wrote?
So when we took the garage over in Cranley,
Yeah.
they were still using a paper diary. And it was a huge moment for Imogen, the lady at the time that worked for us, no longer with us, to actually pick that diary up and throw it in the bin. Because she'd never worked without having that paper diary.
I bet it was scary for them.
It was probably really scary, but we did it, and but it probably took me a good month of her being allowed to run them side by side to prove that actually I don't need this paper diary.
How long ago was that?
So we bought Cranley in 2019.
So not a tremendous long time ago.
No.
But as well though, the technology side of running a business in the motor trade isn't as advanced as some, so it's probably still quite common that people are using those.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, yeah. And we're still learning. We're picking up processes, and I'm saying to these guys, they're the ones at the forefront every day.
Yeah.
If you find a way to do it quicker, then let me know. We'll change it. If that makes it more efficient or easier or gives you more information to do your job better, then let's do it. Let's change it.
So your role is head of business, isn't it? Business operations. Director of business operations. Yeah. So director would give that you're directing, but you feel like it's more of a 360 relationship with you and your staff?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not a dictator. We have this issue at the moment where we're not sure whether we need another front of house staff. We've got 2 at Cranley, 2 at Ewhurst, 2 here and 1 at Cranley. But the second one here occasionally goes to Cranley to help out. But that was their decision. I asked them, they were getting inundated with work and were struggling to cope. So I said to them, what do you want? It's all right me saying I would do.
Okay, no, that's
What
right.
do you want? What do you want to help you out? And they chose to have another member of staff that they shared between them, and we monitored it. We're getting together again in a couple of weeks' time to review it because it's only been happening for about 2 or 3 months. The other avenues we're looking at is centralising our phones.
I was actually going to ask you this question because I was looking at your social media and you have a link tree, don't you?
We have
A link tree, and in there it breaks it down to I can't remember, the one that's standing out to me was automatic gearbox specialist. If somebody rang here and tried to book in their automatic gearbox, would you send it to the other site to have it done?
No.
So it's all done, every site does it?
Cranley don't do the automatic gearbox because they are a lot smaller.
Okay.
And because they are generally longer jobs, we don't have the ramp space or the car park space to keep them in. But Ewhurst and here we do. We have an in-house lady that does all our marketing, social media. We don't outsource it at all. She deals with it all in-house. We also have a member of staff who does nothing but estimates for us. Estimates for various all the sites for various work.
Do you do that through Techman then, or does he?
He does it through Techman, and doesn't matter where he is, he's got access to all 3 sites on his Techman. The reason behind it is to have some consistency. So we don't want someone ringing up Gatwick and getting a different price if they ring up one of our other depots. Yeah. Even though we do have the demographics are slightly different and the labour rate here is slightly less than the other 2 sites. So we have lots of staff in-house that do lots of roles that you wouldn't normally see in a garage.
Yeah, really the key to your success is analysing data and being extremely organised.
Yeah, we're not perfect. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah, there's a lot you have to do. So what's a day-to-day for you? Surely you're not doing all of that by yourself.
Generally, I have staff meetings every month with them, where they have their opportunity to have a moan, have a gripe, something they want fixing, or some tool they might want, or something that's not happy with. I deal with customer complaints. So the managers would deal with it initially, and then if it needs escalating, it will come to me. So not that we get that many, but 3 sites with an average of 300 jobs at each site every month, you're bound to get a few that need dealing with. Yeah. I do one-to-ones to make sure they're individually, personally okay with what's going on at work and home and stuff.
You do that with everyone?
Yeah.
So you don't just do it with the manager, and then the manager does it with the techs, you do it with the techs as well? Over 3 sites? Did I see you had something like 20 techs employed?
There's 4 staff with 32 altogether.
And you sit down once a month?
No, I don't do one-to-ones once a month.
Oh,
we do monthly meetings once a month. One-to-ones we probably do 2 or 3 times a year.
Still a lot of people though. So you are very, very busy.
Yeah. Then I do all my data. Obviously I look at it at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And then I have meetings with the managers to go through their data and what improvements we can make, things that we're slipping down on that we need to just pick up a bit. There might be things that I picked up in my data that I need an explanation for. Okay. It might throw an anomaly up, and very often there's a reason why. So your parts margin for 1 month might be really low, down to say, I try and aim for about 35% on part margin. It might be 1 month down to 28, and I need to find out why. And when you start looking at it, it's because we've had a quiet month, so we've got every single one of our courtesy car fleet in and done a service, and so you're not billing that out to anyone, but you're still buying the parts. So, but normally there's a reason why it throws an anomaly up, but you have to look at it to find out because you don't know what it is.
How do you find time to write your articles? And you've just been appointed as well, haven't you, in the head of garage services?
IAAF.
Yeah, how do you have
I'm
time?
loving that actually. It's really good.
What does that involve?
So at the moment we meet up about 3-4 times a year.
Okay.
There's lots and lots of people involved from all sorts, logistics, part suppliers, of work being done behind the scenes on the whole 422, 411, MOT, and block exemption. There's lots of work going on that people don't realise that gets done by the IAAF and probably other organisations as well. Really good opportunity to be a voice for the garage. I think I put some figures together for them on how the MOT extension has affected the MOTs in our industry, and we predicted about 5 years before it would begin to level out. So we have this huge spike in October on MOTs, but we have a dip in sort of April, May, where they did the 6 months extension.
Yeah.
That is beginning to level out.
So is that 5 years from when they put it in place and now?
No, that was, we reckon by 5 years, so by 25, that will be almost back to a predictable level flow.
What's bringing that back to standard behaviour then?
We had no new car sales in 2020, did we?
No.
Because of, so 2023, there's no new MOTs coming through. Back in COVID, people weren't getting them done. They were making use of the 6 months extension because they were like, everyone was just petrified in April and May. But by the time we got to June, people were fed up of being in lockdown and any excuse to get out, even if it was just to drive your car to the garage. It's just beginning to level out again now. So people who were getting it done in June, obviously you get 30 days, so they're getting it done slightly earlier. We've got the 2019 new ones that have come into play as well in March. We didn't have any in 2020, so 2024 we'll see some more new ones coming through in March and September. So it is levelling out. But the other interesting thing that some of the people at the last meeting were surprised about was the number of people that have an MOT and a service done. You say it is?
I would say about 90% of people.
Yeah, it's really low. Nationally, somebody said to me it's about 42%.
That is quite low.
So we're finding that what's happening is people are spending more money on MOT failure and advisory items, but not having their services done. For us as a garage as a whole, all three sites together, we average about 56% have an MOT and a service.
Do you advise that?
We advise them to have the MOT and service done,
Yeah.
but the demographics between the sites are different. And one site, it's about 78%. The other two sites bring it down, and it averages across the three different sites at about 50, 56.
Did you promote it at the same time to, I can't remember what you called it now, to increase your recovery rate?
No, it doesn't matter whether it has done it at the same time or not.
Explain to people at home what that recovery rate is, because you did to me and it blew my mind.
Okay, so recovery rate is your actual labour rate. If you work out your labour sales and divide it by your hours sold, that is your true labour rate. And it changes where you sell an item or a task at a fixed rate, which might be higher or lower than what you charge out your labour rate. So a labour rate of £100, if you sold 45 minutes, that would get you £75. But if you sold an MOT in that 45 minutes, it only gets you £54.85. The other flip of that is if you sold a half-hour labour job, you would get £50. But if you sell a task that's a fixed price, like a brake fluid service, at £62, you're getting £62 for that half an hour and not. And an average is around about 80%. So most people would say my labour rate is £100, where the real recovery labour rate is only £80.
So then, would you say earlier, £5 profit?
So yeah, it all depends on what your cost of doing business is.
Yeah.
That's what you need to work it out from. So if your cost of doing business is £75 and you sell your labour at £100, most people are thinking they're making £25 an hour. But because your recovery rate is actually only 80%, you're only selling your labour at £80, you're only making £5 an hour.
See, that's mind-blowing. I mostly asked you the question again, just so I can have it on video so I can go watch it back. Because, like, I think that's sort of critical information for running a garage, isn't it? If somebody was coming in, they've left their job, they're going to start up their own place, what's the critical information that they would need to become successful?
Cost of doing business,
Yeah.
labour rate and recovery rate, 100%.
Any of those take a priority?
All together. They all work together. You have to know what your cost of doing business is to be able to know what to sell your labour at.
Yeah.
And you have to know what your recovery rate is to make sure that your labour rate is enough over your cost of doing business. So how about if your labour rate is £100, your cost of doing business is 75, but your recovery rate is only 78? You're only making £3 an hour.
you're not doing anything with.
Which is nothing. The only other money you're making is your small margin on parts. But your parts are just a byproduct of what you do. What we do is we sell labour. So our labour has to be making us money. Our labour has to be covering our cost. Forget the parts.
So
Forget
the
the
parts
margin
are an
of
extra.
part. Yeah. Our labour has to be covering our cost. 100% all the time.
So if you're relying on the selling of parts to make money,
You're not
probably
charging
doing
enough
something wrong.
on your labour. But you have to work out your cost of doing business. And that is something I picked up very early on from Andy Sabbath.
So you'd highly recommend
Yeah,
checking that out.
100%, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, data's my thing, but I never looked at our cost of doing business before until I did Andy's course.
So I'm assuming the cost of business is
Everything apart from your parts. Technician wages, your front of house wages, your rent, your rates, every pen you buy, every single thing that you need. And you can take that from your own data. So if you look at your last 6 months worth of profit and loss, and then add on a percentage for inflation because prices are going up,
Yeah, okay.
and then you need to work out your workshop's efficiency, because obviously we don't all sell 8 hours every technician every day.
Yeah, that's right.
So an average, I would say, is around probably between 60 and 65%. So if you then apply that to how many hours your technicians work, minus their holidays that they have, because obviously they all have 28 days a year where they're not working, apply your efficiency rate to that. That's how you get your true cost of doing business. And Andy Sabo explains it really, really well on his course. So once you know what your cost of doing business is, you then need to work out from that what you're going to charge.
The garage is set up, they've got cost of end business,
Yeah.
they've got the labour rate set up, they've got the recovery rate, they've got a good foot in there. What takes them then just from being a standard garage to being one of the good garages? Well, I guess the question is, what sets you apart from the backstreet garage?
Okay, organisation, time management, good people,
And
team.
find good people.
It's hard. It's really hard. Good people and good training. You have to train them.
Yeah?
I spend hours with the front of house staff training them to make sure that they get the processes, to make sure they do it how we want to do it as a company.
So you're training them on the processes you've developed for them to do things for you?
Yeah.
Do you give them external training? Is it apart from Andy Sabo?
I sit there with them, I do it with them. And Amanda here started 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago now. I started with her just shadowing me, and I was explaining things as we went along, what I was doing. And over a period of about 3 months, we just transitioned into her doing it and me shadowing her. The point that I felt and she felt comfortable to be left. So then I went back to visiting some of the other sites and coming here maybe 3 days a week just to make sure she was okay. But training, key.
So I suppose then, if you're that hands-on with your training, it's not a case of finding good people, it's more about your ability to create good people.
Yeah, but you still have to have the right team. You still have to have the right people.
Yeah?
And the recruitment process is really hard. So we've implemented this disc profiling in our recruitment for front of house staff.
Okay.
Not because there's a right or a wrong or a good or a bad, but it gives us an understanding of them. I have a front of house lady that loves and thrives on public praise. So if I put on the group chat that she's done exceptionally well, she's had a really good day, well done, give her a pat on the back. That is the ultimate for her. But I also have another lady that would hate that because she doesn't like that public. She would much prefer for me to just send her a private message and say, you've done a really good job today, well done. So doing the disc profiling is about understanding individual people's characters and then adjusting how you train and how you are with them depending on how they are.
So then it's not that that person's terrible, it's almost that you're managing that person terrible.
Yeah.
So that's like you've had to take quite an internal look on that then and see how...
It's something I've learned. I do a lot of personal development.
Yeah.
I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of training on coaching. I have a business mentor that I see literally every Friday. And he's great because he won't tell me the answer. If I have a problem, he'll go, well, what do you think we should do? And he'll just steer me in the right direction so that I know what I need to go and do to put it right or to deal with something. I know a lot of garages aren't in a position to afford to have a business mentor, but if you can.
Their access to YouTube and the Simply Diag network and places like that, the DPF doctors, if they offered that sort of training and support there too, it is you're probably paying more for premium to have somebody comes to you every Friday, but there is opportunities there for people to learn, isn't it? With recruiting, I know you're quite passionate about equal opportunities and female in the industry.
Massive, yeah.
So I've spoken previously about pay being a barrier to people entering the industry. Do you think that is reducing the flow of women into the industry as well, or is it less of a barrier for them?
Possibly from their perspective, but if they come into it, especially with us, they'll realise that actually it's not a barrier. It's getting them to accept that. So I agree with when you're advertising, when you're recruiting, you need to show a salary. There's no point saying, open to this, that or the other, or opportunity to earn because you've got bonus and this, that and the other. You need to be transparent. You need to kind of say, this is the role, especially with front of house staff or non-productive staff. All staff, this is the role, this is what we're expecting of you. This is what we're going to pay you. And then we have very often when we've recruited for non-productive, we get a good mixture.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, of men and women. We get women that apply that openly say, in actual fact, every single one of our front of house service advisors do not come from automotive background.
Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it's a good thing. We've had people on front of house that have been technicians, and the problem we had is they almost diagnosed the problem over the phone before the car's even here, because they believe they've seen it before, and then it goes tits up when it actually gets in the workshop, because that's not what the problem is.
I can imagine that happened quite. I think as well, I do it myself, is over-explaining to the customer, and you're giving them information that they might not understand or need.
So there's a really simple thing that you can do to find out whether a customer is task-driven or people-driven.
Okay.
So if a customer asks you lots of questions about the job you're doing, what oil are you putting in, what brand of filters are you using, what brand of brakes are you using, they're a task-driven person. So you have to give them information. You have to give them more information and ask them more questions. If you have a customer that comes up and goes, oh my God, look at the weather, what's happened with the sunshine? They're people-driven. They don't need to know. They don't need to know the details about what you're doing. They just need to know, I've done a service, we've replaced the brakes, and it's going to cost this much. They're happy. It's about identifying with your customers whether they're task-driven or people-driven. And you can get that information just by asking questions.
Conversation with them. Talking to you, and then you keep coming up with these little nuggets, and it's like you're not just turning up to work, giving a quote and then fixing a car. You're proper psychoanalyzing every customer and how you can optimise that customer for business performance.
Yeah. So if you have a customer that says, well, what's a brake fluid? If we're trying to sell them a brake fluid because it hasn't been done for 2 years or 3 years or sometimes 4 in the case.
Yeah.
Well, what's a brake fluid? If they've asked, they probably need to know, and you probably need to explain to them what a brake fluid is and why it's important and all the rest of it. And the chances are they go, oh yeah, do it. But they're just a task-driven person and they need to know that information. But you'll get someone else that will go, oh, if it needs doing, just do it. They don't need the detail. They are the customers that you can just say, oh, where have you been at the weekend? Where were you going on holiday? And have a chit-chat about the weather. And they'd be as happy as Larry. Because they're not, that's their characteristics.
And then again, that goes back to, you haven't got the wrong customer, you've just got the wrong management approach. You haven't got the wrong member of staff, you're just managing them wrong.
Yeah.
So I've heard lots of times where people are like, oh, this customer doesn't pass the vibe check, I'm going to palm them off with the price and then they're not going to take.
Yeah.
Maybe if they spoke to them differently.
I mean, we do get customers that you don't want.
Yeah?
We do.
How do you deal with that?
We just say no.
Do you?
Yeah.
Not even
I mean, you obviously normally have them in once and have a bad experience to learn that they're that type of customer, but when they come back, we just say no. I actually had a colleague of mine message me about 8 months ago, and she said, Tina, I've just found this note on this customer's file, and she's rang up and asked for us to do an MOT, and I'm like, okay, what's the note? She said, you've just put a note in there saying she's a bit of a nutcase. Don't have her back. I was like, okay, say no. And as soon as she said the name, I remembered. I said, no,
okay.
no, just turn her away, send her somewhere else.
Do you have a process of saying no, or was it just like, I don't want to touch your car, sorry?
No, because it's not normally the me that does it. It's just, I think they just...
Creative rights to them.
You get a vibe at the time, and you do. The girls. So we've done something recently. It's a bit of fun. Everybody likes Google reviews.
You've got a lot.
We've got a lot of Google reviews. We've tried all sorts of things to get people to leave reviews. We put the QR code on the bottom of our invoices. We have it up in our offices. We've asked people. And we've got a lot, but we felt that considering the amount of jobs we did, we could get a lot more. So I said to the service advisors, every time you get your name mentioned in a Google review, I'll buy you a bottle of Prosecco.
That's when you got all your reviews, wasn't it?
And they have literally taken that on board. I think Amanda here at Gatwick probably has 24 bottles of Prosecco at home, because the part of it was just to have a bit of fun to see whether they would do it. And at the beginning, it really put them out of their comfort zone to actually ask.
Yeah.
But now they're just in the flow. They're just in the flow. They just say every time. And they get a vibe with the customers that they can have a little bit of banter with and ask.
Yeah.
And those that you can't. Yeah, it's just... So if you look at our reviews in the last couple of months, you'll find that there's lots of names being mentioned, and that's why. It's a bit of fun for it. And some people don't drink alcohol or Prosecco, so they're having other stuff, but just a little bit of an incentive to see if they would push themselves out of their comfort zone and ask. And some have done it much, much more than
It's
others.
obviously working, like, yeah.
But it's also knowing that, there have been incidents where we've had crosswords with customers, and we had chats with the front of house staff about how you deal with that. Because nobody talks about it very much. How do you deal with a bad customer? How do you deal with a customer that comes in and they're aggressive, or they've kicked off because the bill was not what they thought, or it's taken longer? We all had them. We all do our best not to, but we all had them. And I've said to them all, you have to remember it's not your problem that their car's broken. So don't take it personally, and don't take it home with you, because they would go home stewing over, oh, I've got to ring that customer tomorrow and tell her bill is 800 quid. And it's like, why? It's not your problem. You can be empathetic without being rude, and we spend quite a bit of time on how we do that, on how we kind of say to a customer. We don't use words like, unfortunately, we try not to. Sadly, I'm sorry, because it's not our fault it's failed. We just tell them, your car's failed its MOT, and it's going to cost you £800 to fix it. But you can do that with compassion, you don't have to be rude.
That goes back to earlier about your sort of psychoanalyzing the customer. Because if you lead with, unfortunately, that sets them in a negative place to receive bad news.
Absolutely.
So
You
they're
don't
going to be
need
more
to
likely
say
to
that
complain.
word, you don't need to say that word. So one of the things that I read, which has stuck with me, is every scenario that is like that, you have to think about what outcome do you want. Because if you think about what outcome you want, you can then choose how to respond to that event. So if somebody comes in and they lean on the counter and they're aggressive to you, obviously we don't want that customer to go away unhappy or annoyed or angry with us. We want him to be satisfied. So the only way we're going to get that outcome is by how we respond to him.
Okay.
So if we respond in an aggressive manner or in a defensive manner, it's just going to escalate. And very often, these people just need to rant. They don't actually want anything, they just need to rant. And it could be something else that's triggered them off. Not you or what you've done, but you're just the person that they're taking it out on. So if you just sit there and you listen, and you be empathetic and you reiterate what they're saying, it's quite often enough for them to get it off their chest. So I do a lot about listening.
Yeah?
How people don't listen.
No, they don't.
They listen to respond and not to understand.
Yeah. It's a conversation I have with my kids all the time.
Could imagine.
It's an interesting thought though. I'll be honest, my natural reaction is if somebody started coming in and screaming at one of the girls, it'd be to pick them up and take them out. But obviously, like you said, that person's going to be a little bit annoyed by that.
I mean, that person could have literally just been run off the road. He's angry about that. But he's not telling you that, he's just taking it out on you.
How do you train them to do that? Because I would take that personally.
We just talk about it a lot. And Amanda did used to take it very, very personally, and she used to take it home with her, and we literally... She's actually got a thing up there on her desk that says it's not your fucking problem. Yeah. To remind herself that it's not my problem that your car's broken, it's not my problem that your car's failed.
No, I definitely struggle with it not being my problem, in the sense that if I'm working on a quote and it's expensive, I'll think, oh, the customer's not going to pay that, so I'll lower it.
Yeah, but why?
I don't know why.
But that's your mindset
Yeah.
that's saying that's expensive, not your customer. That's your mindset.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, well, I wouldn't want to pay that for my car.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's why, yeah.
Yeah, but that might not be expensive to your customer.
No, it might be.
Might be,
But-
it's not your problem.
No. And then afterwards I'll go and do the job and it'll be a pig of a job and then I've lost time and money when really if I just charged them the right amount of money then everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
And
And that's when you have to ask yourself, if that customer's constantly beating you down on price, is that the type of customer you want?
no.
No, because you can go to one down the road and do exactly the same job and say to them, it's going to cost you 1,200 quid, and they go, okay, that's fine, that'd be great.
Yeah.
No cost, you haven't lost any money, you haven't lost any time or anything, and you haven't had a feeling guilty or bad because that customer's bill's too high. It's not
Yeah.
your problem.
Something else I struggled with, I can't imagine you fit customer supplied parts.
No, absolutely not.
But I used to, because I was in the if we went back to the garage that just set up, I was in the mindset that I had to get that work in.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of boys who still fit customer supplied parts because they don't want to turn the work away. How would you advise them on that situation?
They're the type of customer that's looking for the cheap deal all the time.
Yeah.
That's why they're supplying their own parts. That's not the sort of customer you want. If they're supplying their own parts, it's because they can get them cheaper, or they believe they can get them cheaper, which they probably can. And then what happens when it goes wrong? What happens if the part they've supplied you is faulty? Even if they've got it from ECP and they've bought it to you, or even if they've got it from a main dealer and they've bought you the paperwork to prove, what happens then if that part goes wrong and it fails?
You as an expert, you're liable for fitting a part that was unsatisfactory.
Exactly. So that could be a 4-hour job that you've now got to do again for free.
Whereas if you bought the part yourself, you'd have that warranted for £45
From
an
the
hour.
supplier, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just something we just do not do.
So,
I mean, we've learnt the hard way like everybody else. We
I
used to
learnt
do
the hard
it.
way, yeah.
Years ago we used to do it. We used to have a regular customer here who did horse boxes.
Okay.
So she would buy them, just old vans, and do them up into horse boxes and sell them. She made quite a good living out of it. And we used to do more. When she came in one day and it failed on seatbelts, 2 seatbelts in the front.
Okay.
And this was kind of when we were transitioning between no longer fitting customer supplied parts, and all of the managers had been told they weren't allowed to do it. And she had bought 2 off of eBay, and we replaced them, and they didn't work.
They didn't work?
They didn't work. So they were obviously dodgy, I don't know, they didn't work. So she then reluctantly said, okay, I'm going to have to buy proper ones from the supplier. And then we did it and charged her again, and she kicked off. And she said, well, the first one didn't work, so how can you charge me twice? And it's like, we did the job twice. It's not our fault that you bought.
It's not your problem.
And we never saw her again.
Experience, and you've done all those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the sort of customer we want. She was always looking for the cheap deal.
No,
And
you're
we
right.
had we'd filled that time with much better work, more profitable for us,
Yeah.
with customers that we want to keep.
But when I started out, I found that I was taking on any job and every job because I hadn't built that customer base yet. So going from fitting customer supplied parts to not, almost felt like I was turning away a job, which now in hindsight I know that that's not an issue.
No.
I can do that. But for somebody who hasn't got that workload, it's a bit of a daunting task, isn't it?
It is, but you've always got to look. Once you do it once, that customer's going to expect you. So in 18 months down the line, when you have got your customer base built up and you're doing much better, that customer's still going to come back and want it on the cheap by supplying their own parts. What do you do then? You say no? Or as well, you've always done it. You've always done it for me. Why are you not doing it anymore?
And then you say no.
My advice would be, if you're starting out, start how you mean to go on.
That's a brilliant answer.
Yeah. Start how you mean to go on.
Because it takes you back to that plan again, doesn't it? Like you, I'm not sure if we recorded it, if we were just talking to ourselves about how you had your visions and your values set out, and then now everyone was on board with that. You were just aimed at that.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than.
Yeah. So vision was put together by Stuart, which is to be the most professional, recommended trusted garage for those we serve. So not just for our customers, for our suppliers and our staff as well, and our team. And then we had 2 sites at the time, which we got everyone together and just brainstormed and literally gave everyone post-it pads and asked them what professional meant to them and what being recommended meant and what being trusted meant. And everybody's ideas were the same, which we kind of put all these post-it notes all over the wall, and everybody looked at it, and from that we chose what we believe is our values, and they're all over our workshops. You'll probably see them in our office, they're everywhere. Our values are written down and what they all are and what they mean. They're in our handbooks, so every new member of staff, they get a list of our values and our vision in the front of their handbook.
Okay. So what does being professional look like to you?
Looking smart,
Yeah.
for a start, being honest,
Okay.
definitely being honest, communicating, I think, which is the biggest fall down for everybody, and we fall down ourselves with lack of communication, which is always room for improvement. It's finding that balance where you're communicating with the customer enough, but not overdoing it, so that you're pestering them. That's hard.
Yeah, no, it
that's
definitely
hard.
is.
But again, we're kind of learning that if we can, we were saying about having a task-driven person and a people-driven person. A task-driven customer wants that information, so they want updates regularly, daily, if you're doing a big job. Whereas someone who's people-driven, they don't need the details. So you can just send them a message at the end of the day and say it's done, or it's booked in for tomorrow, or whatever. It's failed. This is how much it's going to cost. It's identifying your customers.
That sounds like almost a full-time job in itself.
It is.
Yeah. Well, that's obviously why you got the front and the house for it. So you said earlier that you're not quite perfect yet. What do you think the flaws, whether it's in your business or in the industry, that's stopping you from becoming perfect?
I think for us as a company, what we need to realise within our own 4 walls is we have so much knowledge amongst all our technicians and our staff, that we probably need to ask for help sooner than we do if we come across a problem. And I don't know whether that's a technician thing, whether it's a man thing, I'm not sure, but you kind of get into a job and you just keep digging, where actually, for example, you could be working on a BMW. We have somebody at one of our other sites who comes from BMW, main dealer, knows everything there is to know about Minis and BMW. So it's like, well, stop and go and ask, because this other person might be able to tell you the answer just like that, rather than spend half an hour going down the wrong road. And we have that knowledge within our company. We don't have to go elsewhere for it. And sometimes I feel that can be better. It can be better. We need to be aware, the technicians need to be aware that actually we have this knowledge here, we just need to stop and ask. Is that a fault where people don't want to admit that they can't do something? I don't know. I also think one of the things we can improve, I put a lot of effort in trying to build the company, even though there's 3 depots, and sometimes there is a little bit of in-house rivalry.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is that encouraged?
I don't encourage it.
Okay.
I think it just kind of happens, and it's trying to get them to realise that they are the same team. We are one company, and we're here to help each other. I think
it's good to a degree. If they were sabotaging each other, that's not okay.
No.
If they were
It's not
pushing
like,
each
it's
other
not like
along,
that. Yeah.
they're just acting as an added motivation towards each other, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just trying to outdo each other.
They're just trying to outdo each other, and then if one team does well, there's excuses. Oh well, it's because you've been over there more this month, or they've had more support from so and so, or something like that. And actually, it's not about who's bigger or who's better. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. Let's just use them.
It's like you're the mother of
Yes,
3 garages.
I did get told that actually at our 30th birthday party,
Did you?
which was a couple of weeks ago, that I was the mother of CCN.
People, my boys actually do it. I'm like, Isaac, why are you being naughty? He's like, oh, it's because you're always nice to Elias. I'm like, well, I'm nice to all of you. And your staff are doing it for you. That's quite awesome. So you've obviously developed a brilliant culture here.
Yeah, it's been hard going.
Yeah.
Again, it can be better. There's always room for improvement. We do a lot of team activities. We do a lot together with the training. We mix everybody up. We don't just do it at one site. We get everyone together from all sites. So front of house training, obviously everybody from all the sites come together for that. Christmas parties, summer do's. You might have seen our social media where we had our birthday party this year.
I seen your birthday party, yeah.
So Hannah, who does all our marketing, organised a fantastic sports day for us.
Okay.
So it was old-fashioned, egg and spoon, sack races. It was absolutely great fun. Everyone was a bit like, what are we doing? But
And then you started getting involved, didn't you?
everyone said it was
To see it.
absolutely fantastic. So yeah, we did it here on the grass at the front here.
Did you win any races?
No, I did actually. I won the 3-legged race.
Did you?
But that was about all I managed to do. And my team didn't win. But again, that was good fun rivalry because
Yeah.
all the teams were mixed up. It wasn't like there was 3 different sites competing. We all mixed everybody up with your names out of a hat.
That's good.
Um,
So there wasn't any punishments handed out that you didn't win? No.
no,
Didn't dock anyone's wages for beating you in the
no
100
wages
metres swim?
docked for letting my team down. No,
Did
nothing
you
like
want to? Okay, so you mentioned earlier recruitment's a struggle.
that. Yeah. So interestingly, we lost a couple of technicians that we felt that were good because they were overwhelmed by us as a company, which was really interesting because this one technician in particular come from a Porsche background, and because we sold ourselves so well, he just thought, I think I'm going to be overwhelmed. I don't think I'm going to be able to do what you require of me to do, even though all of his skill levels said that he was absolutely suitable.
So he's seen your standards as higher than he would have Porsche's then?
He felt that he would be out of his depth and overwhelmed by our expectations, and he came from a Porsche background.
That's mental, that is. You don't strike me as a slave driver, though.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to beat him up because he didn't reach his targets that month.
No. We do look at productivity figures
Yeah.
on the guys, but more, we don't look at it as you're not serving enough hours. We look at it more as why are you not productive, what's happened in the workshop. So one of the other things that Andy Saber really inspired me to do was Lean Six Sigma. Don't know if you've heard of Lean Six Sigma. It is the old waste lean processes from Toyota in Japan, which they set up on their production line many years ago.
Okay.
Look it up, it's really
I'm going
interesting. Lean Six Sigma. It comes from Japan, and it's about having your processes so there's no waste. So our keys and our parts and all the bits you need for your car are in one location.
Okay.
There's no point going there for your keys and then going there to get your
No.
parts and then going there to get your oil and then going there to get the drainer. It all has to be. So if you work out how many steps you take from getting your keys to your parts to your oil, going to get the vehicle, get it on the ground, all that wastage. And Lean Six Sigma is about improving all those processes so you take the waste out. So when we look at productivity, for me, it's not so much looking at why have you only sold 5 hours today out of your 8. I'm looking at why have you only sold 5 hours, what can I do to make your process leaner,
Okay.
to take that waste out.
So I'm going to come back to this, but because I want you could do it to the step. But first, I want to say, do you know? Have you heard of Simon Sinek?
Yes.
He said once that the difference between a manager and a leader is a manager will walk into your office and say, if you don't hit your quota for next month, you're sacked. Whereas a leader will walk into your office and say, well, you didn't hit your quota this month. What's wrong? Is everything okay at home? Can I help you in any way? Are you sick?
Yeah.
And so essentially what you're actually doing is not managing a business, you're leading
Leading.
a business.
Yeah. What can we make better?
Yeah.
How can we make better? So the boxes, for example, I know there's lots of garages out there that implement it, but it's a lean process. It's why chuck them on the floor, and then your technician's got to come and rummage through all these parts to find out which ones it is. Why not have that lean process? And that's and Andy Savo inspired me to do that.
So you monitor them down to the step. We're not monitoring,
Not
we're
so
not
much,
watching them.
yeah, not to the point of watching the steps, but just watching the process of where they have to go to get X, Y, Z to do the job that they need to do. But they're already in place now.
Yeah.
So, and they have the autonomy, if you like, to change it if they think they can make it better.
Okay.
So if they decide that actually we want to move this over here because this is better for us because we do all the servicing on this ramp, fine. But they understand the concept of if you can make this more efficient and the process leaner, then do it.
Something that's not on my mind, it's just the flaws of the industry. So we got no recruitment because there's no money to pay people because people aren't charging properly and stuff like that. What do you think the biggest issue that we're facing is at the moment?
With recruitment?
It's just the industry in general.
The biggest thing for me, I think technicians and business owners undervalue what we do. Totally undervalue what we do. Don't charge enough.
Okay.
And even you should be charging more than £60 an hour for what you do.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. Cars are not what they were 20 years ago.
They're really not.
They are really complex. They are really, really complex. I mean, we have big customers come in and you say to them, oh, I need to replace this sensor, for example. And then they go, why is it taking you 3 hours? It's like, because we've had to remove the whole of the front car to replace this one. You know, people totally undervalue. We undervalue ourselves. And I think that is the biggest thing. So for me, I think it would be great to see licensing coming in because I think that will have a massive impact. And then if we had licensing coming in, people would stop undervaluing what they do.
Is that something that you're pushing with the IAAF? I always get confused.
IAAF, yeah. So why, you know, it's not easy work fixing a car now.
No, it's definitely not.
But people, and then you have, you know, it's the things like the jobs that you can do really quickly because you've done it 100 times. So I can't think of anything in particular off the top of my head, but a 4-hour job that you can do in 3 because you've done it 100 times. Yeah. You still charge 4 hours.
For sure. Yeah.
Because you're paying for all the years you've spent learning how to do that, not just the 3 hours it took you to do it. It's taken me hours and hours of training and practice to be able to do that 4-hour job in 3 hours.
How do you find that with diagnostics? So recently I had a customer with an engine management light on for cam crank correlation. I know the engine reasonably well, so I knew that chances are I had a stretched timing chain. So I pulled out a picoscope, plugged it in. Within 10 minutes, I found out that it had a stretched timing chain. So if we brought it to another conventional garage that didn't have a picoscope, they would have had to strip it down and check the timing themselves. Would I be justified in charging them the same amount of time that it would have to strip it down?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Because you're charging for your knowledge.
Yeah.
You have that knowledge because you've come across that before, and the first time you did it, you had to strip it down.
Yeah.
Yeah? And even the second time you come across it, you probably stripped it down to check. You're charging for your knowledge that you gained from doing that job over and over again. So just because you now go, actually, I've seen this many times before, I know what it is, I don't need to spend an hour stripping it down, I can just do this. You still need to charge an hour. You're undervaluing what you're doing. So it's like if you had a solicitor for something, and it was a solicitor that specialises in, I don't know, let's say, debt collection.
Okay.
He only ever deals in debt collection. He knows that area of work inside out.
Yeah.
He's still going to charge you the same amount, even though he knows the answer. without having to do any research. He's
Yeah,
still
no,
going to
that's right,
charge
yeah.
you.
Yes, definitely is, yeah.
He's still going to charge you for that phone call he made on your behalf. Still going to charge you for that email he sent you, even though he knows what the answer's going to be, because that's his area of expertise. He knows.
I've probably overstayed my welcome, so we'll wrap it up. But before I go, if anyone wants to book in with you, or just speak to you in general, what's the best way of them to get in touch with you?
Phone me.
Yeah?
Yeah, WhatsApp me. Phone me, email me. I don't mind. Facebook, message me. More than happy if anybody wants to.
I would highly recommend anyone getting in touch with you, because I feel like we haven't even touched the iceberg of the information that you can share with us.
Probably not. I could go on and on and on.
No, you are definitely a wealth of knowledge, and I'm probably going to watch this back and then probably message you and ask you some more questions.
Feel free, no.
I'll definitely do that. But thank you for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.
It's been very, very nice having a chat and catching up and
It's been lovely.
sharing some of my knowledge with you.
I can tell that it's only just some. You're obviously a very experienced, very intelligent woman, aren't you?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Been good.
If there was more of you in the industry, we'd be all charging a lot more.
We need to be charging a lot more.
Yeah, we do. Right, that was brilliant.